Now.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon across the known world, and welcome back to The Crown Between Two Roses. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Countess Beatrice, and with me is Countess Eva, Duchess Eva. Brain.
Fantastic. So before we begin and introduce our lovely guest, I would like to just take a moment to do our acknowledgement of country. Good nobles, we come here together in a spirit of fellowship, deepening of our skills, sharing of our knowledge, and a shared interest in the search to find truth through experimental archaeology and historical inquiry. It is in that context that I, Duchess Eva, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we gather. We recognize their continuing connection to the land and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and elders from other communities who might be here or watching today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And tonight we are very excited to welcome Mistress Philippa Ginevra
Francesca de Licignano.
Yes. As we, there's a few of us that quite like to call you Mum quite affectionately.
So hey, you laureled me. What does that give you? What rights does that give you?
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for asking.
And to know, there's a few things that we do like to ask. And one of the first questions is, how did you find the SCA?
Okay, so in the realms of ancient history, my grandfather was a medieval scholar, and I've always had a fascination with the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. And you would hear rumours of medieval societies, but never how you could contact people to join. And having completed my nursing training and several years of working as a registered nurse, I attended Macquarie University, and in my first year in 1983, I was having coffee with some people who were in my medieval history course, and we were talking about things we were interested in, and I said, you know, you always hear about these medieval societies. You never actually meet anyone who belongs to one. And one of the people I was with, Ingrid Cheng, Fury, said, well, I belong to one. Would you like to come along to a feast? And that was it.
When was that?
1983. Fury has long since left the SCA, but you're still stuck with me.
What has kept you in for so long?
I don't know.
Love that.
It's the vibe of the thing. No.
Am I allowed to say that? Actually, no. My love of the people, my love of my household, my spirit of inquiry, and the ability to return to a world where courtesy and chivalry still mean something.
Love it.
So in those first few years, I'm always curious to know, what were they like, and how did you find your way into your multiple passions? How did we kind of develop there at the start?
Okay, so I breezed through the very first Rowaney Festival in the car park momentarily. And I have attended festival sites from Wilton, Tara, Yass, Pete's Ridge, and most currently down in the Southern Highlands. I've done the lot. I think in that entire time I have been unable to attend, even for just a few hours, to festivals. in that time. I remember when 100 was a huge gathering at Rowaney Festival. I cooked the very last bulk feast at the tavern on Saturday night. No, Sunday night I did, Sunday night. Saturday night I did a collegium in the middle of the feast. And so it was very small. You could get around and see everybody at festival probably within about 2 hours of setting up, rather than, now it's like you're going around saying goodbye to people and going, oh, I didn't even realise you were here. Oh my goodness. But having said that, unlike some people, I recognise that in order for the society to continue and change and evolve, it needs to do that. It needs to not cling on to the past and say they were the halcyon days. Every era and time within the society provides its own halcyon days. And, I come from a time when joining the SCA provided us with 200% more books on medieval cooking, because when I joined, Rowan had one and I had two. I'm talking I know you laugh. I'm talking very much pre-internet.
Quality over quantity, right?
Right, definitely. I've been to some very interesting feasts in my time. A potluck feast would always guarantee at least 15 barbecue chickens.
Yeah.
But, we have grown and learned. One thing I get very tired of hearing is, in the old days, so much of what we did was wrong. But that comment coming from lack of recognition that the resources that people have now to research garb, history, everything is so much bigger, because we started in a time where there was no internet, minimal computers. I remember my first computer was a Apple IIe. And I don't think I ever went down the Am. Oh, I might have gone down the Amstrad. But we certainly had no internet. We certainly had no ability to do virtual tours of international libraries, international museums, all of those sort of things. And so what I really like is what I would like to see is a recognition that for what we had available to us, we did the best we could. It's quite recognisable that many people with particularly laurels, if they were being laurelled these days, would not be laurelled because of the standard that has grown. And you need to celebrate the standard that's grown, because that means that the society's grown, the knowledge has grown. But we shouldn't be going, back that it was all a waste of time. It wasn't a waste of time. It was a learning experience, and we do living archaeology. And, if you had to wait 6 months for a book to come from the UK and you weren't buying it through Amazon or Booktopia or anything like that, you waited for it and you rejoiced when you got it.
I think it's, yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the big points that we do celebrate that history to a degree. I remember my first piece of garb and moving forward from those points, and it is absolute learning curves.
Yeah.
I was the same when I started. We didn't have the internet. There wasn't that instant information available. It had to be found. and you had to look for it. And then every time that something new came up, it was right there and you grabbed it because you didn't know when the next thing would.
Yep.
We're living in quite a privileged time, to your point, I was doing some research on a particular banner, and all I had to do to sort of get more than what was available online was to email an academic in Germany. And when I was like, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And then he's replied with essentially, are you happy to correspond in German? And I go, oh, I only speak English. And then I got a response going, oh, it's okay, I speak English. Here, some more information. I was like, oh, thank goodness. So definitely a much more privileged time.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that has also come up is the amount of time between when you start in the SCA and how long it is before you get your first award.
Right.
So when was that for you?
Okay, I got my ALA 9 years, possibly 10 after I started.
Wow.
And I maintain to this day it was so they didn't have to change the regnum in the Rowaney newsletter because someone had put me down as Lady Philippa. And I went, don't have an AOA, not a lady, just plain Philippa. And it was like, and magically my AOA arrived. 15 years in for my Pelican, and 30 plus for my Laurel.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wanted
I'm a dabbler.
As Bea mentioned at the start, you're well renowned as being the mother of Montbar. So I understand that you have a long history with St. Sebastian. Do you want to tell us about how that started and the infancy of that household?
Sure. I will confess that I was Althar's first consort. I'm also his only consort that he's never reigned with. I was also championed by William Delamontagne Coupe in a crown tourney, came second. And Sebastian has fought 1 or 2 crown tourneys for me, both times with his wife, who does not play, with her permission, which bowled him over and second. So I'm very used to being the bridesmaid and not the bride, because I've also been a bridesmaid 7 times. So Magnus, that's very naughty.
Magnus, our tech in the background, has just sent us a message saying he should suck less, for everyone that can't see the back.
He doesn't suck, Magnus. Sebastian has more real life than the rest of us put together. If he ever decides that he wants to go out and fight a crown again, then I will support him. And if he never does, that's not the reason why. It's not the reason why we are a consort ship. So very strangely, about 12 months after my consortship with Alpha ceased, I received a phone call from Sebastian's wife saying, Sean is going to ask you a question, please say yes. And 6 months later, Sean asked me to be his consort. And I need to stress now that the relationship that I have with Sebastian's wife, is one of the reasons why this consortship has lasted so well, and has been such a wonderful experience, I think, for all of us. Because if at any time Christine had been unhappy, we would have pulled up stops, obviously. But there have been times when she has introduced me as this is the person who owns Sean in any time but the current century, or this is the person who looks after Sean when he's being a loony. On the rare occasions that we could ever get Christine to an event, it was that under the condition that she had to be supplied with champagne constantly, and that included his knighting.
It's a good policy to have.
Good policy, and I provided garb for her and for Cashlin's lady wife, who also does not play. And I will go anywhere in the known world to be at an event where Christine is. And so our consortship has now been going for, I don't know, probably close to about 30 years, 28 years. And I hasten to point out that Sebastian is much younger than I am. Really.
I mean, aside
not
from...
that I'm into toy boys. I'm not into toy boys. I just want to know now. I'm not into toy boys.
I wanted to touch, I'm just going to expand a little bit, because of course, Vont Bar is much more than the partnership in terms of a consortship. But for those outside of our kingdom, Vont Bar is one of our larger war unit households. And I think there's a huge number of the Northern Chivalry who have all fought with Vont Bar and Vont Bar colours, which I know is also aided in large part to you making garb, helping people make things. A huge amount of red and yellow has gone through your sewing machine. So what was the drive to get people involved, and how much work did you and Sebastian do together to make that happen?
I think part of it, and the reason why it's always worked, is our motto has always been, Vont Bar is not a place, it's a state of mind. So the household and the war band has been a gathering of like-minded people with the same ideals. We have a far more structured household than some of the other war bands and households. We have been so lucky in our squires, apprentices, students who have chosen us to be their guides over the years, and as particularly Sebastian squires have grown. Originally, what we said was, the first year after you've been knighted, you camp with the encampment. The second year, you form your household, but you will always come back to Vont Bar for the Vont Bar feast. So it's been, growing the whole time. And because the mindset is the same, I have been at events overseas where, the livery coat goes everywhere, doesn't it? It just, and people have come up to me and said, is so-and-so a member of Vont Bar? And I would say, yes. Why? And one particular episode, the person said to me, because I witnessed him at a tavern at an event with a young lady who was starting to feel very uncomfortable with the way the situation was progressing. And so he went to her and offered his escort back to her encampment so that she would arrive there safely. And I said, that's absolutely wonderful. He said, as soon as I saw that, I knew he was a Vont Barian.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
and it's that care and fellow feeling, I think, that's kept it going as well. we all have very, very similar ideals. We all want to play in a way that's chivalric and also inspiring without being maudlin, you know, and to play the very best dream that we can. And that has spread, and we have tentacles all over the known world. We've had kings and queens of Drakenwald, obviously, who are Vonbarians. We have several associate members amongst the chivalry in other countries. And it all goes down to the fact that it is the mindset. And if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and you're not feeling that you are adding to the enjoyment of other people in their dream, then the question is always back to you, well, what are you doing? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to realign? Or do you actually want to leave the household? You know, we're not going to stop you if that's what you want to do, if you're no longer feeling that way. Does that explain it?
Yeah, I think, you know, building that sense, you've obviously built that sense of community, and it's drawn people in and kept them active within the household as well, which is amazing and commendable. B, what do you got?
So Magnus shared a picture with me earlier.
Right.
And this is it here. So this was one of the Montbar anniversaries. Can you tell us about this, please?
Oh, I don't know if I can get that picture big enough.
It was one taken at festival.
This was the 25 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was it was 4 years ago. I know that it was 4 years ago because I had my thyroid out with thyroid cancer, and that was my first outing. So what you see is not just what you see is the Vontbar students, squires, apprentices now and from the past. And when you look at it, it's a pretty scarily big stable of peers.
Fun fact is that we're all in this photo as well.
That's right. Yes, you're there. Yep, you are. Indeed, you are. So that was the 25th anniversary, and we had a big feast, and that was when Vontbar was announced or received the Pride of Lockhart.
Wow.
Awesome. It was such a good time. I felt very privileged to be there.
It was just so mind-blowing because we tried to do 20 years and that hadn't worked out. We managed to do 15, but obviously Seb's and my consortship predates the start of the household as such. I can tell you a very funny story about Bain becoming Seb Squire.
Yes, please.
Go for it.
Oh, he's not. That's right, he was 2 weeks old. Sorry, Fred was 2 weeks old. Okay, so Sebastian had squired Cashlin and Alaric of Bangor. And we had told him that we had said that Christine, his wife, had put a weight embargo on his squires, that his squires could only amount to so many kilograms. And the festival where Bain was squired, and he's heard this story, so he's not going to hate me. He loves me. We had said he was squired, and we'd said, now, you do realise that the reason that you've been squired is that both Alaric and Cashlin have lost weight recently. And so Seb was able to take you as squire and still be under the weight embargo. And poor Cash and Alaric kept on finding their plates being taken from them at meals in case they put on weight, and he had to give the white belt back.
I tell people unbelts a lot of the time, like, every night's different when it comes to squiring. Like, we all have different expectations. It's one that I haven't heard before. Maximum baggage allowance when it comes to squires in total.
And Christine is a very strong woman, and a woman that I very much admire, and she could scare the boys, as in the family, the boys, and so it was not totally an unbelievable thing to say and get away with.
Just so you know, we've had quite a few people chime in from Montbar also saying we weren't in the photo, but we were there too.
That's true. That's true. That's true. There was a much bigger photo, but I haven't actually seen it.
We will try to find that for you.
Yep. Yeah. It was wonderful, and that was, I think I was 4 weeks out of hospital, and I could not have gotten there without Mistress Gabrielle's fabulous husband, Sir Eric Raffin, driving me both ways. And I got there, saw everyone, got changed, went to the photo shoot, came back. Deb was going to, was that Victoria's Laurelling as well? I know, was that, yes, Victoria's Laurelling. And then I went back to the encampment, and Seb just looked at me and said, sit down here, somebody make her a cup of tea. And I slept for the next 3 hours while the boys were all off, while the fighters were all off playing. And when they all came back, he came and said, it's time to wake up now. I went, where have you been? We've been fighting. What? Good. Did you have fun? So yeah, it was very special, and because of the very nature of Seb's mundane work, it will always come first because it's extremely important, and so actually getting us all together is a bit difficult, and for many years, particularly when Seb was in the UK doing his postdoc, there was a rumour that Seb and I were actually the same person. You could have one or other of us at an event, but you never got the two of us together. And the year that I was working in Drachenwald in Thames-Reach, Seb had been there for the first 6 months completing his postdoc, and then they came home, and the festival before I went, I was there but no Seb. The following festival, there was Seb but no Philippa. And so everybody went, it's right, they're the same person. You can't have the two of them together.
It's like tag teaming.
Yeah. It's not true. There are plenty of photos of the two of us together.
Yeah. I think we're all kind of glad about that.
I am. I'm sure Christine is.
So I'm going to change the subject a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because as I was coming through the SCA and getting learning some arts and sciences and bits and pieces, I kept hearing about these really random and weird arts and sciences classes ran by Philippa.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What type? Which ones?
I never made it, but I was actually lucky enough to, Henri and I did give you your laurel.
That's true.
Yes.
And Eva and Felix won the Crown Tourney that
they
day.
did. Yes.
That's a big day.
Yes.
It was a big day.
We were both a part of that ceremony, which was amazing.
That's right.
Can you please tell us what you were laureled for?
What I was finally laureled for was apothecary. I
Did I hear
have.
that right?
Beg pardon?
What did I hear that right?
Apothecary.
Apothecary. Yep, I didn't hear it right. I thought you said suppository. I thought that's a very specific.
Well, yeah, that's well.
That
I
would
can do that too.
That would
can do
be
that
part
too.
of those arts and sciences colleges that I had heard about. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, I am a nurse, mundanely by training, and I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in medieval studies, totally unrelated to my nursing training. But I was very lucky to have studied as an undergraduate Old English, Middle English, Old Norse. I'd done hieroglyphs. I had studied classical Latin, and I dabbled in classical Greek. I'm no good at a language unless it's been dead for at least 500 years. And I have always found the history, half a lemon. I have always found the history of medieval nursing and medical practice, and Renaissance nursing and medical practice fascinating. And being able to read the receipts for the remedies in the original language was a huge help. And I dabble. Everybody who knows me knows that I dabble. And so I started doing things with Mistress Marie de Lyon, who is a research biochemist in real life. So, put a nurse and a biochemist and a chemist together, God help you. And we started playing with recreating some of these receipts. And with Roxana, we set up a business. And so it was doing things like, I started doing bubbles and beauty sessions at Festival, which was like a medieval and Renaissance Avon party with a lot more champagne. But all of the products were from, everything that we used was from medieval and Renaissance receipt books, books of secrets, books of beauty, and recreating them. And many of the raw ingredients, wherever possible, I actually grew.
That's so cool.
In my garden. It was fun. It is fun. So I have a collection of old roses, which provide those beautiful rose petals for spirits of roses, for rose julep, which was almost like a rose sorbet sherbet, jellies, jams, ointments, creams. I think I made my very first tincture back in about 89, and that was a comfrey tincture, which formed the basis of the semi-renowned Von Bar Bruise cream. And I only made it, for the fighters in the household to start off with. And obviously I did more and more research. I now make incense, from various resins, woods, herbs, spices. I have studied incense recipes from the Middle East. For my laureling, I actually made kaifi, which was an incense that was used in ancient Egyptian temple rituals. And that recipe came from a combination of the original source and hieroglyphs and Pliny the Elder's comments. So that's it. That's apothecary. So cough mixtures, herbs, tinctures, all of those sort of things.
So is there a recipe or remedy that you put together and it works so well you use it often? Is there a favorite that you've got?
I've got several favorites. My Queen of Hungary water, which is the first alcohol-based perfume. We have got 10 years of Queen of Hungary water. I think we've just in the last couple of years sold the last of the first 3 years of it.
Wow. What does it smell like?
So the legend behind the Queen of Hungary water is that it was specifically developed for a Queen of Hungary who was an older lady for her rheumatism and various other things by one of her court apothecaries. And it had a totally rejuvenating effect. It's got a very large amount of rosemary in it, plus some other herbs and essential oils in it, to the point where she married a man of 23. I think she was 78. But it's just
boy right there.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I make all these things, never works for me.
I can't tolerate 23-year-olds now. So
I spent 10
what
years.
What did they talk about?
I spent 10 years as a school nurse in a boys' boarding school, mate. And then I worked with homeless youth and youth at risk. So you can't tell me anything about today's youth, and I love them, and I think that our hope for the future is with them. But I have no illusions. So the Queen of Hungary water is probably one of my favourites. And then we've done a massage cream, the Bruise cream, constantly. We've played around with beard pomades, as Marie calls it, manscaping products, all sorts of things, and we've also, I think because we're older and have had more of a disposable income, we have not been, and I have not been scared to import difficult to get ingredients from overseas. And I was extremely lucky to visit Oman while Mistress Matilde and Sir Stephen were there, and had a wonderful and too short time with them. But I came home with a backpack full of very interesting things, some of which nearly didn't make it through customs, but I was able to explain what I was going to be using them for. And the customs guy said, well, you obviously know what you're doing, off you go. Recognising that amount of disposable income means that we've been able to play. So, I've done things like, we've made things like face powder with real crushed pearls,
Wow.
all sorts of stuff.
I have
Does that
to
answer your question, B?
It was my...
Yeah, a little bit. There are a couple of questions in the chat, though.
I'm sorry, I haven't not looking at the chat. It's up to you.
So Baroness Anne has asked, half a lemon, are you French or Italian? I'm curious about that one.
Oh, okay. For many years, I used to do a collegium on sexually transmitted diseases and contraception within period. And I actually have a very special little embroidered pouch from Mistress Jessica Fernaby that has a beehive and a lemon that was full of condoms when she presented it to me. And so the half lemon, so I'm giving a warning now. There are gentlemen still alive who, if I mention platinum wire, will faint. Just putting that out there. And so one of the contraceptives that was used was a half lemon, because the pH of the vagina is alkaline and sperm cannot exist in an acid environment. And so a half lemon would be used similar to a diaphragm, and would change the pH of the vagina and therefore act as a spermicide. All children should be in bed by now. Just putting that out there. All children should be in bed by now.
They needed sex education anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So I used to say in my lecture, yeah, Bash is awake. Yes, I know. Thank you, Magnus. I used to say in my lecture, you know, so if nothing else, if you remember nothing else, if you're given a clove lemon, I want you to think contraception. However, I also want you to remember to take the cloves out first.
That's a good call.
Because
Because they keep
not
it
only are cloves very, very scratchy, but they're an anesthetic.
It's not clove for her pleasure.
Not internally, no. So some of the other things from this lecture, some of the other contraceptives was the use of honey, which and that exists from ancient Greece and was carried through to at least the 12th, 13th century. And the idea behind honey is that it slows the motility of the sperm. Okay, but you need to remember to put the honey in first and not afterwards, because otherwise you trap the sperm. A bunch of very funny one-liners, so that you know, at the time of ejaculation, if the woman suddenly gave a huge laugh, the sperm would be expelled. So men were expected to have a bunch of one-liners to utter at that time. Another one was to jump up and down and call the name of another man, so that the sperm would be confused.
Science, right?
Science. And the platinum wire or silver wire was a treatment for syphilis, where they would cauterize the inside of the penis. And someone very, very cleverly said to me, but the inside of the penis is rifled. And I suggest to a certain extent it is, which is what helps to propel the sperm. So I said, you know, it's either you hold the penis like this and do this with the wire, or you hold the wire and do this with the penis. And literally, I have had men faint in this class.
I thought it was horrific learning about the bubonic plague, but this all sounds worse.
Oh, the bubonic plague's much more fun. Much more fun. And the collegia that you're talking about, B, John the Thatcher. John the Thatcher has been going for, has been 12 years of lectures at Festival. Obviously, there've been a few breaks during that time that Mistress Marie and I have delivered. And it started off with death. And when we deliver the final lecture, which will be the next time we are at Festival, it will be the sex lecture that I have refrained from giving since we started John the Thatcher. And John the Thatcher has followed the life of a common man through the 14th century, from a pre-plague feudal country situation where he was the milk brother of the son of the Lord of the Manor, through to the move to towns and the rise of the guilds and middle class and skills and those sort of things. So they're the John the Thatchers, and I think probably one of the most memorable was, I think, the one that we did last, which was surgery, and we had a pig. And we did indeed perform surgery on the pig. And members of the student body were invited to assist. And that's when I discovered that we had doctors, anaesthetists, pathologists, EMT specialists, all sorts of people in our audience.
That's so cool. So I have to ask this question.
Yeah.
It could be related, it might not be, but you must have a billion stories. But what is your favorite no shit, there I was story?
I have a lot. One of them was actually stopping a coronet tourney and making it run to the next day because one of the finalists was about to go into very severe heat exhaustion.
Oh my gosh.
And as a senior chirurgeon, that was in my power to make that call, and I made that call. I made a lot of people very unhappy, but no shit, there I was. Being Vicar of Rowaney during Floodfest and trying to do the opening port of Rowaney Festival as the marquees were caught by the winds, lifted up and deposited elsewhere. That was quite memorable. Going to an event in Germany and being asked to teach the sex class. Memorable. No shit, there I was. No shit, there I was. Assisting in the washing of Master Hlu and the Unruly's feet with my then journeywoman sister, who Trudy, who she did one foot as she would prepare a crowned roast, complete with little paper crowns on each toe, marinated and washed, and and me, disinfected, scrubbed, antibacterial, wrapped in bandages, the whole thing. And poor Hluan, his feet were still clean at the end of Festival.
Now, why did that happen?
Why did that happen? Hluan always has bare feet at Festival, no matter what happens. And Charles of the Park, Master Charles of the Park, was my laurel master at that time. I was one of his two journeywomen. And it was as a result of a bet that the two of them had between them. so yeah, there's there. And sometimes I think that somewhere in the future there will be a campfire on the last night of festival that will be no shit stories about Philippa. And part of me wants to be there and part of me is going, it's not going to be healthy. The other really good no shit story was the year that Bain, Michael and Philippe came to their first festival. And it was the first time they had ever been out of Queensland. It had been a very interesting festival. And they came tearing back from the tavern one night, and Seb and Cash and I were just sitting very quietly by the fire pit talking. And they flew through the encampment into their tent. And then we heard pillow fight, blah, 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 in 5 minutes. And they then started to worry when they heard Seb say, Squire, my helm. It took a long time to realise later that the person hitting hardest with the pillow was me.
God. You got to show him who's boss.
There are a lot of really scary Philippa stories, and good luck to the boys because they have earned the right to retell those.
Well, you know, if you're a nurse, if you can cuss them with a pillow, you're the one that has to do the work. So really, why not?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and there was the first year that I hired them all an arm ring tent, and said, if I find any piece of armor not on your body and outside the arm ring tent, it will go in the fire pit. And they all looked at me and went, yeah. And the fire pit had been dug and someone had left a helm out and they went to the tavern. And when they came home, the helm was sitting in the fire pit. The pit wasn't lit, but the helm was sitting in the fire pit, and they all went, oh.
Good on you. You've got to have standards.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the reason I'm such a scary woman. And I have such a wonderful SCA family that it is always a joy to get together with them. And I'm sure the boys have now forgiven me.
Maybe they're just scared of you still.
Oh, maybe I just bribed them with enough Anzac biscuits. And of course, now I do gluten-free cooking as well. So, you know, Bain gets his Anzac biscuits and the others get gluten-free stuff. So,
of course. Out of all of your stories that you have, would you have one that is a favourite?
ooh. Look, this is the one that my darling ex-student, Baron Giles, tells so much better than me. I will not do it the justice that he does. And so if you want to get it with all the flourishes, I would suggest that you bail up Giles at some stage and ask him to tell you. But for 12 months, I lived and worked in Drachenwald. And it was just after I was pelicaned, and I had taken both Giles and the now Mistress Jenna as my students. And we were assisting in the cooking for a spring crown tawny in Wales. And it was in a typical English village hall that led out onto the cricket ground in summer and football pitch in winter, with a bar on the side and a totally inadequate kitchen. And Jenna and her husband had brought down gas rings with gas bottles to assist with the pots and everything, and had set them up on the bar. And anyone who knows me knows that I am, yes, indeed, Wolfram. And anybody who knows me knows how short I am. And so here was the bar. Here were the gas jets, and they had big pots of stew on top. And someone had very kindly set up all of the condiments that I was likely to need on the far side. And so as people wandered through on their way out to the tawny, I would stop them if I needed something and say, "Excuse me, my lord, my lady, your excellency, your grace, whatever, would you mind passing me such and such?" And I was flabbergasted, because here in Lockhart we have a very different way of doing things. And I had people hold up medallions and say, "Do you know what this is?" And I'd say, "Oh, yes, it's a pelican," or "Yes, it's a laurel." This means I don't have to do anything. And we'll continue to walk through, or, you know, and me being me, how often do I wear bling? Okay. I wear this because this is the first coronet that Master Sir Leo Frick Willoughby de Brooke ever made, and it's the only one that's never had to be returned to him for repairs. Anyhow, sorry, I digress. You know, or they would point to a coronet or a crown and say, and I go, "Would you mind just passing me such and such, please?" And in the end, I got a little bit jack.
Understandably.
Yeah.
And so I went to Giles and I said to him, "Have you got car keys?" And he said, "Yes, why?" And I said, "I just need the car keys. I need to get something out of the car." "Right. Do you?" "Yeah, yes, please, just need to get something out of the car." "You're coming back, aren't you?" "Yes, I'm just getting something out of the car." And he could tell, you know, because Giles and I have been friends for a very long time, he could tell where the simmer line was. He said, "Oh, I'll just come with you." So I went to the car and got my bits box from the boot and put on my coronet, my pelican medallion, every bit of bling that I owned, and went back to stirring my pots. And then as people went past, they go, "You've got a coronet." "Yes, would you mind passing me such and such?" And I go, Or, yeah, oh, you're wearing a medallion. What's that?" "Oh, it's a pelican." Oh, really? Oh, yes. So would you mind just passing me that, because I can't reach it?" And one of them said, "You're a pelican. Why are you cooking?" And I said, "Well, it's really strange, but when they gave it to me, I didn't lose the use of my arms."
Well done.
Which we followed up later in the day. Someone had made the most amazing trifle I have ever seen. Totally out of period, but, you know, there it was on the dessert buffet, and it was glorious. Any Jane Austen soiree would have been proud to have had this center of the table. It was gorgeous. It had trellises and flowers and everything on it. Oh, it was gorgeous. And the person who had decorated had left all these green strings of licorice in the kitchen. And I'm sure by now you figured out I've got rather a warped sense of humour. And so I picked up this green strands of licorice, handed some to Giles and some to Jenna, and said, come on. And I need to say that at this time that Elfin was king of Drakenwald. And Elfin and I go back a very long way. So they said, what are you going to do? And I said, just follow me, do what I do, you know, and keep your thing. So we got up towards Elfin and Silfrin. I'm trying to remember who his queen was at that time. I'm very sorry. But I am talking about 2000. And we got closer and closer, and Elfin realised, you know, we were coming towards him, and he just went, and ostensibly under the pretense of asking him how he felt the event had gone, the feast had gone, because we'd all been part of the cooks group. We got up very close, and I started to sneeze, and the other two started to sneeze, put the hand up and went, achoo! All this green stuff went over the table, and Elfin laughed so much that he fell off the throne. And you could see the queen looking at us, trying to figure out how she could banish us. And as he climbed back onto the throne, Elfin said to us, see, I told you we have much more fun in Lockhart.
Sometimes you got to make your own fun, right?
Yeah, and that's probably the closest that we've ever gotten to being banished.
I got banished for 5 minutes once. It's not that great.
No. But if you want, you know, the story of the coronet and the bling and everything and the cooking going on, Giles really does tell it much better than anyone else I know.
Awesome. We'll definitely have to chase that one
Speaking
up.
of it being better in Lockhart, you've seen the kingdom grow from, you know, a principality to crown principality to then a kingdom.
A vice regal.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite Lockhart tradition?
Ooh.
And it might even be one that we don't observe anymore.
Okay.
Or one that we still got going.
Yeah. There's lots of them. What we don't have anymore, or we possibly do, but I'm not allowed to cookies. Sorry, I just keep seeing Magnus's little comments at the bottom. I don't see anything else, but yeah. One of my favourite traditions, I've got a couple now I think of it. One of my favourite traditions is the muster on War Day with all of the pageantry that goes with it. And you know, there are so many photos over the years of Von Byron, all its permutations heading off to war. And for so many years, I would only be allowed to be there one night. So I would go down for Saturday and I would have to leave after war muster on Sunday. But I would be there for that. And part of me always looked at it as the proud mum. The kids are going off to play, and let's make it beautiful, and let's make the best show that we can to show other groups who might be starting out that anyone can do this. Of course, they can't do it as well as we do, but one of my other favourite traditions is that we've always set a very high standard as a kingdom, as a principality, as a vice-regnal principality, particularly under the leadership of, you know, so many blazing and guiding lights such as Rowan. That is a tradition that I don't think can ever be taken away from us. And the other side of that coin is that Australians and Lockhart has a very healthy sense of the ridiculous. And our ability to laugh at ourselves before we laugh at others, I think is something that makes me very, very proud to be a member of Lockhart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth saying that, you know, when it comes to War Muster, that's something that really struck me personally about the work that you and Seb put in, was gathering all of those people, and, you know, you always looked fantastic. And I think that that is something that gets lost in translation sometimes, is there's lots of people who don't fight, but they don't engage in the fighting or in the culture that surrounds that. And it's so much more than just big burly men hitting each other with sticks, if you allow it to be. And that was something, you've always been a huge inspiration to me, being there to nurture that, and you appreciate that. And that honestly is what's built the culture of Vontbar, is that mutual understanding of, you know, you're not just there for yourself, you're there for the team. And that comes from everybody, to the fighters on the field, to the water bearers. It's extended out to yourself, the people who made the pageantry happen. And from the outside, that was amazing. And, you know, from the inside, it's very appreciated.
It's also leading by example. You have truly been the example for everybody to follow in that space. You really have. You may not see it, but that is how it is seen from the outside.
Well, thank you very much. I see myself as mum. There is certain things that I think still go within the fighting band, like if you've been injured, go and tell Philippa before she hunts you down.
Yep.
And you know, that's because the bottom line is I'm a nurse. And to me, you know, missing out on sorry, I've got comments coming through from something else. No, I've lost what I was going to say. But you know, missing out on, you know, an afternoon's fighting to be able to fight better the next day because you've taken action on an injury early. It is a far better proposal than, oh, look, I dislocated my shoulder, but if you strap it, I'll be able to.
Be a fighter.
As I used to say to the boys at school, you know, what part of no are you having problems with? Is it the vowel or the consonant? And for me, as a chirurgeon, I used to run up against the fighters saying to me, you don't fight. You don't know what it's like to be in armour. You don't know about the adrenaline rush. So, ta-da, won this field. This shield. I was an authorised fighter. And if you want very funny Philippa in armour stories, I suggest you talk to Sebastian.
We will have to hit him up.
Who promised my mother that while he was responsible for me, I would never be injured on the Tornio war field. And he had a very cunning strategy for that. bless him. So yeah, and just being there, I think, as you heard at my laurelling, I was so lucky to have 4 fabulous men who have come up through the household and members of the household to speak for me for the 4 orders, and unfortunately Sebastian could not be there for reasons that, even though he thought that was going to be the weekend he would be able to get free, he could not. It was beyond his control, but to have those men who I had seen, many of them virtually as boys, to also speak frankly about my advice, whether they wanted it or not, various other things. I don't think I could have chosen 4 better people to speak for me. And Cornelius magnificently filled the breach in Sebastian's absence at very, very, very short notice. And I would hope that, even though I am no longer as active as I would like to be for various reasons, that the members of the household and the war unit would always feel that they could come to me to talk things through if they had a question or an issue or whatever, and know that while they might hear something that they didn't really want to hear, it would always be from the heart.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't you start, B. Don't you start, because I'll start and then
I'm not going to.
Good
I'm
girl.
not going to.
Good girl.
On that note,
does that make me sound like I'm a pontificator?
No, you did tell us that you can talk in wet cement, so
I come from a family of religious ministers on both sides.
oh
my God.
Suffer. And politicians suffer.
Well, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. It has been amazing, and the stories you have told are just phenomenal. It really has been a bit of a trip through your history, and that's just wonderful to hear.
Thank you so much for asking me. I had a few doubts, and I was very, very nervous, despite the fact that I can talk through wet cement. And I hope that other people have enjoyed it and gotten something useful from it as well.
Absolutely.
You are such an inspiration to so many people in the kingdom, even though you might doubt yourself. Before we do go, was there anything that you desperately wanted to say that we didn't touch on before we go? Now's your time to, walk in the footsteps of your family members as politicians and ministers.
Used to be live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse. I can no longer say that anymore because I'm definitely now geriatric. I think that the most important thing to remember is that we get out of this game and this dream what we put into it. But we must always remember that the bottom line is that it is a dream and a game, and mundane life will at time take precedence, and no one should ever feel sorry or upset that if that occurs, it will be far better a game for you to play when you've dealt with that and come back to it, and never, and I speak from experience on this one, never be afraid to say, I need time out. There will always, or reach out, there will always be people there to help you and support you. And if I can just say one thing, several years ago, and I don't speak about this very widely, I had a stroke. And amongst the many things that I lost at the time was my ability to actually sew. I couldn't put a seam together. I couldn't thread a machine, let alone, I couldn't thread a needle, let alone a machine. I have some extremely wonderful, wonderful friends who, thank God, are costuming laurels, unlike me, who through their diligence and perseverance taught me to sew again. Wow. There are still things that I can't do, but without them and that friendship and that bond, which came through the SCA, and there are times when people have thought that we've been quite an unusual group to be together. Me, probably the most unusual person to be there, but someone had to keep them in line. Without that love, support and perseverance, I would have been out of the SCA nearly 20 years ago. And I would like to take this public forum to send out a thank you to them for that, and for making me keep up a very healthy sense of the ridiculous when it comes to me.
Well, I would like to echo those sentiments and thank everybody who has done that, because, you know, you have definitely been a leader in many different ways and an inspiration to quite a lot. And I would just throw it out there. We apologise to Mistress Gabrielle, but we couldn't resist asking Philippa to put the Vont barcode on.
Spied. I tried to put on a front lacing gown and I couldn't manoeuvre my arms after my second AZ. I'm so sorry. I tried for an hour and a half. Honestly, I did.
You look fabulous.
That's okay. We have
Thank
a
you
magnet.
so much again for joining us. It has been amazing. B will know exactly who is our next interview victim coming up.
So next Friday night, we have the joy of interviewing the new Baron and Baroness of Stormhold, Leith and Eleonora, on Friday night. And then on Saturday, we have the fun of Kalbada from Kalbada's Corner, who will be joining us so we can get to know him a little bit more and throw him under the Lockhart bus.
That's so exciting. Again, thank you so much, Mistress Philippa. You are amazing, as always. Thank you to everyone for watching, and thank you, B, for showing up with me. Yeah. So we will see everyone again next Friday, bright and late or bright and early, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us, and good night.